thanks for tuning in to another episode of HISD TV. My name is Miss McCullough and I am the 4th grade math teacher for the segment of this video. Hi 4th grade friends! I'm so excited that you guys are able to join me for another week of learning and another week of math practice. You guys are doing super well. I'm proud of you all and I see your hard work. Just by tuning into this video shows me that you guys are dedicated. Dedicated means that you guys are determined, you're strong, you're focused, and you're just ready to go. So I'm so proud of all of you. All right, friends, so as usual, you know that today's video requires 3 things. If you already know what those 3 things are, you can go ahead and grab them, take them out. If you don't know what those 3 things are, or you're new to this video, let me go ahead and share those with you. The first thing you're gonna need is something to write with, preferably a pencil. Why? Because, well, when we do math, we make mistakes, right? But if you don't have a pencil, it's okay. Just use something that you can write with. Also, guys, take out a highlighter. If you don't have a highlighter, that's okay too. Guess what? A yellow crayon or a yellow colored pencil or even a yellow marker works just the same. The next thing you're gonna need is a sheet of paper, right? If you don't have a sheet of paper and you're like, you know what, I have my math notebook, that's excellent. If you don't have your math notebook, find a sheet of paper where you can follow along with me. And the last and probably most important thing that you're gonna need for today's video is to find somewhere where you can focus. You can learn, you can focus with me, and that you're not distracted. So if you have toys, electronics, anything next to you that's gonna distract you, go ahead and take these next few seconds to move those things to the side. Once again, I'm going to give everyone a couple of seconds to gather their items, gather what they need, move everything away, and we'll get started. Okay, fantastic friends. You guys are ready to learn. It seems like you're all ready. You have your materials and you're not distracted. You're focused and you're paying attention. So before we begin math, or before we begin any school lesson for that matter, you guys know that we have to read the objective, right? The objective tells us what we're gonna learn and how we're gonna apply what we learned. If we don't know what we're gonna learn or how we're gonna apply it, then our learning isn't going to be that well, right? Because we're not going to know. So let's go ahead and see what we're going to learn about today and read the objective together. Are you guys ready? All right, let's do it. All right, everyone. So today we're going to interpret the value of each place value position as 10 times the position to the right and as 1/10 of the value of the place to its left. We are also going to represent the value of the digit in whole numbers through 1 million and decimals to the hundreds place using the expanded notation method. And we are going to use this solving a few problems. Okay, everyone, now that you've read the objective, you know what's expected of you, you're ready to learn and you're focused, we're going to get right into the math. As a reminder, please make sure that you write everything I write. So if I write down strategies or I write down words, I write down important things, make sure that you follow along and write it with me. It's like a practice that we're doing together, okay? All right, guys, if you're ready to start, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Awesome work. Let's go ahead and get right into the math today. Okay, 4th grade, so we are now beginning our lesson. This week, guys, we are going to discuss decimals. So let's go over a few vocabulary words that explain to us what decimals are. And then we're going to solve a few problems. And we're also going to look at a few pictures and models of decimals and what those may look like. So guys, let's read this first word together. The word says decimals. Can everybody read that with me? Decimals. Yes, decimals. Very good. Decimals, guys, are numbers between whole numbers with 1 or more digits to the right of the decimal point that represent parts of a whole. For example, this decimal is 0.56 or 0.56. This decimal here tells us that this number is not a whole number. And we know that this is not a whole number because it has a point here. It has a decimal. So remember, decimals are numbers that live in between whole numbers, and they represent parts of a whole. It's almost like if you're going to eat a pizza and you have your pizza in parts and you're going to eat one slice, that's not a whole pizza, right? It's just one slice. So let me break it down for you guys and show you in a picture example. Here's my pizza. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 parts, and I have a whole pizza right here, right? It's a whole. It may be cut up into 4 slices, maybe 8 slices, maybe even 16 slices, but no matter how many slices it's cut into, it's still a pizza. So you guys can see here we have one whole pizza, but if I were to only eat this piece right here, I ate part of that whole. So that would be represented as a decimal or a fraction. But in today's video, we're going to speak about decimals. So the next word that we have here is a tenth. Can everybody say that with me? Tenth. Very good, a tenth. A tenth is one of 10 equal parts of a whole. 1/10 is composed of 10 hundredths. One part that is composed of 10 tenths. So when we see the word tenth, we know that this model for a tenth is going to look just like this. It's going to have almost like a hundredth model, but this tenth is going to have 10 parts to it to make one whole. If I have 10 parts and I have 10 pieces that I ate, then I know that I have one whole. For this picture here, how many pieces did we use in this model? Yeah, we use 1/10. So if we use 1/10 of the model, that is represented as 0.1. Now, 0.1, I thought tens were represented as 1/10 of a whole. Yeah, they are, right? But 0.1, we're just going to go in and add a 0 right here so that we know that it's 0.10. So if I have 0.10 here, here I have 0.20, here I have 0.30, 0.40, 0.50, and so on, all the way until I get to 1/10, which is one whole. You guys see that? All right, now that we know a little bit about tenths, let's get into hundredths. Hundredths are one of 100 equal parts of a whole. One whole is composed of 100 hundredths. Maybe you guys have seen these, right? We use these blocks in class. These are called base 10 blocks. And this is 100th. So this tells us that one piece of this entire whole thing is represented like this. This is 1/100th of this entire whole set, and we represent it as this. Now the hundredths are also known as, I like to call them the pennies. You guys know when you see money and you see something at the store, and usually it has a dollar here and then a point and then some change. Well, the hundredths are the pennies. And guess what, guys? The tenths are representative as the dimes. And we know this because 10 dimes make a dollar, but 100 pennies make a dollar. So when we see the hundredths, it's always 2 places after the decimal point, and we can consider those pennies. When we see the dimes or the tenths, we represent those as 1 place after the decimal point, and those are also known as dimes because we see that 10 dimes make a dollar. Our final word for decimals today is decimal point. Do you see this little point here? We always write out decimals with decimal points. This is a dot that is separating the ones and the tenths place in a decimal number, and it's read as and. So if we were to have a 3 here, we would read this as 3 and 56 hundredths. And we say hundredths because remember, we have a 6 in the hundredths place. Now let's say we were going to add decimals, guys. If we're going to add decimals, how we're going to do that is we are going to make sure that all of the decimals line up like buttons on our shirt. For example, if I wanted to add 1.10, 2 and 30 hundredths, 3 and 55 hundredths, and 41 and 6 tenths, and 97 and 5 tenths. You see how all of the decimals line up there one by one, almost like buttons on our shirt, right? When we button the buttons on our shirt, we don't button them all lopsided or one to the side, one to the right, one to the left, right? We make sure that they're all together like this. So when we order our decimals and when we are going to add them or subtract them, we make sure that they're all in order like the buttons to our shirt. Does everybody see that? All right, awesome, fourth graders. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna refresh your memory on tenths and hundredths, and I'm gonna show you what these look like. You ready? Okay, let's look at this. So you guys can see here, this is a hundredth. Yes, how do we know that it's a hundredth? Very good, because it has 100 parts. Very good. So this is also known as a hundredth. And if I were to shade one of these squares, how many did I shade here? Yeah, 1/100th. If I were to shade 2, it would be 2/100ths. And what about 3? 300ths. Very good. So I would represent this as 300ths or 0.03. Okay, so 0.03. That way you guys can see it a little better right here. So this is a hundredth. The fraction is represented as 3/100 because we have 3 shaded parts and we have 100 total. And our decimal is represented as 3/100ths. And we see that here because the hundredth always has 2 spaces after the decimal point. You guys see that? Awesome work. Now let's look at a tenth. This here is a tenth. Have you guys seen this? Yeah, usually we have them in our classrooms and they're blue, right? Same thing with the hundredths. They're usually blue little shapes and figures that we play with and use in math class, right? Those are called manipulatives, and these are called base 10 blocks. And what these do, guys, is they represent tenths. So these are tenths. Tenths. And if I were to shade one of these, it would be how many tenths? Yeah, 1/10. What about 2? 2 tenths and 3? 3 tenths. Let's say I wanted 5 of these. How would I represent this in a fraction? I'm going to give you guys 10 seconds to write this down, represent it as a fraction. Ready? You guys have 10 seconds. All right, you think you got it? Okay, how would you represent it as a fraction? Show me. Awesome work, guys. And the way I would represent it as a fraction is just like you. 5 tenths. Now, let's take it up a notch. How would we represent this as a decimal? Very, very good. We would represent it as 0.5, right? Because we know that we have 5 tenths. And I'm just going to write a 0 next to it. And I'm going to draw a line through it. Most of the times, guys, it's not going to have a 0 on the side. It's up to us to know that it's a tenth and to go in and fill that 0 in so that we know it's not 5. In fact, it's 50 because this has 10 pieces and it's counting by tens like our dimes. Remember? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So it's 0.50. And we know just to add a 0 in there. All right, everyone, so let's get into a few decimal activities today. The first thing that we are going to do is we are going to write down these numbers here using expanded notation. Who remembers what expanded notation is? That sounds kind of tricky. Well, expanded notation, guys, is when we expand the number based on its place value. So I want everyone to write down this word here, expanded notation, and I want you to follow along with me, and let's write down the definition of expanded notation together. This is when we expand the number based on its place value. So we're just expanding the number based on its place value. So what we're going to do is we're going to write down both of these numbers in expanded notation. So let's start with the first number that we see here on our screen. And you guys, can you read that number out to me, please? Very good, fourth graders. Yes, that is 34,589. Whoa, that's a big number, right? But not for us. We are fourth graders and we are smart, so we know exactly what to do here. Let's go ahead and name the place value for each, and this is how we're going to do this. Where is the ones? Yeah, this is the ones, tens, hundreds. I'm going to put an H for hundreds. Thousands, I'm going to put a TH for thousands. And 100,000s. Oh, we don't have 100,000s. What is this place here? Yeah, the 10,000s. Very good. So we know that our number goes up to 10,000, and we're going to begin with the biggest value. We always start with the biggest value, which is 3 here. And this is how we write it. Remember, let's do it. We're always going to place our numbers inside of these. These are called parentheses. Parentheses serve as little houses or shelters for our numbers so that they're not all jumbled up together and they're just in their own little shell or their own little home. So we know that this digit is 3. And if we multiply 3 by what value? Yeah, 10,000. We would get 30,000, which is the value of this number. Is that correct? Absolutely. Let's move on to the next digit here, which is 4. And what do we multiply this 4 by? Very good, 1,000. You guys are so smart. And then we're going to move on to the 5. And what would we multiply that 5 by? Oh, 100? Okay. And then I have an 8, and what would I multiply that 8 by? Would it be 80? No, I multiply it by what? Yeah, by 10 to make 80, okay? And then I would keep adding, and I would multiply this 9 by what? Oh, by 1. And that's it. We just wrote this number in expanded notation. Easy peasy, huh? Look what we did here. We made sure that we have our place value in order that corresponds to each one of these digits. We have our place value here. We made sure that we had our parentheses, and we want to make sure that we house every single digit along with its value in its own parentheses. That way it's not super jumbled and mixed. It's easier and neater to read. Remember, guys, math is about being neat, so we need to make sure that we house every single digit with its value in the parentheses. We also made sure to include our plus signs. Our plus signs here tell us that if we were to add all of these numbers together, we would get our total number, which is 34,589. Do you guys see that? All right, let's move on to the next one. The next one here, can you read this number for me, fourth graders? Very good. Yes. This number is 98,732 and 17/100ths. Notice how I said and. This decimal, we say the decimal as And very good. We don't say point. Sometimes we say point, maybe in science, maybe in math, it'll just blurt out fast, but we need to get into the habit of saying and. So this is 98,732 and 17 hundredths. Why did I say hundredths? Yes, very good, because we have a 7 here in the hundredths place. Are you ready to break it down for me? All right, let's do it, fourth grade. So let's start with the biggest value here, which is the 9. What value does this 9 have? Yes, this 9 has a 10 thousandths. Very good. What about the 8? Thousands. What about the 7? Hundreds. The 3? Tens. And the 2? Ones. What about this one here? I know it's one space after the decimal point, so what value is that going to have? Oh, it's going to have the value of a 10th. Very good. And what about this 7 here? Yes, you guys got it. It's going to have the value of 100th. Very good. So what we're going to do now is write this out in expanded notation. Do you think you can do it? All right, I'm going to give you guys around 10 seconds to get started, and then I'm going to join in with you, and we're just going to do it all together, okay? So take 10 seconds to kind of get that started out. Remember your parentheses and remember your plus signs. Everyone has 10 seconds beginning now. All right, guys, you think you got it? Okay, let's do this together. So I'm going to start out with my parentheses. Always do it. We're going to write out the digit 9. We're going to multiply 9 by what value? Very good, by 10,000. And then we're going to close the parentheses and we're going to add a plus here to tell us that we're going to add all of these numbers to create this number overall. So then we're going to move in with the 8. We're going to write out our parentheses, write out our digit, which is 8, multiply it by which value? 1,000. Very good, 1,000. And we're going to keep adding this out here. Next, what we're going to do is create a parentheses and have our next digit, which is 7. And we're going to multiply 7 by, yes, 100, which is its value. And we're going to close the parentheses and keep on adding. What is our next digit? 3. And what are we going to multiply 3 by? Yeah, we're going to multiply 3 by 10, which is its value. And we're going to keep adding. Let's move on to the 2. The 2, and we're going to multiply 2 by which value? Yeah, 1. And we're going to close the parentheses, and now we're going to have an addition because we need to move on to the decimals. Now let's pay attention. How do we write this out? Well, remember our vocabulary words. They give us the example of how we would write them out. So we would do it something like this. What is the value of the tenths? Yeah, 0.1, right? So which digit do we have in the tenths place? 1, exactly. So we would multiply 1 by 0.1, or a tenth. You guys see that? All right, now let's try a hundredth. Which digit do we have in the hundredths place? Yeah, 7, okay. So we're going to multiply 7 by 0.01, which is a hundredth. You guys see that? Very good. So just as I mentioned earlier, we made sure to include our parentheses. We have our plus signs there. And when it came to these digits right here, we made sure that we included our tenth as 0.1. And I'm going to add an imaginary 0 here in my yellow marker so that I know that that's 0 and tenths, or 0.10. That's a tenth. And then I made sure to multiply my next digit, which was 7, and make that into a hundredth. Now I want you guys to look a little closely at these numbers. I want you to look at this decimal here, and I want you to look at this decimal here. But I want you to kind of tilt your head to the side a little bit and look at it backwards, if that makes sense. Let's look at it backwards. This is kind of a neat trick. So if I look at this backwards, I have 1.0. What number does that look like? Yeah, it looks like a 10, right? Well, it's a tenth. And what about this? I have 0.01. What number does this look like? Yeah, it looks like 100th, right? Backwards, but it looks like 100. So that's a cool trick for us to remember which one is the 100th and which one is the 10th. Do you guys see how we used expanded notation? All right, awesome. So let's get started and solve a few problems today using our expanded notation and everything that we know about decimals. So let's read the first problem together. Ready? Quinlan described a number using these clues, okay? So Quinlan is describing a number and they're giving us some clues. So let's go ahead and read the clues that Quinlan has so that we can figure out which number it is. It says, the value of the digit is 7 times 10. The value of the digit 3 is 3 times 1,000. And the value of the digit 1 is 1 times 100. Which number could fit Quinlan's description? So we're going to take this piece by piece, 4th grade. What we're going to do is we are going to write out exactly what the value is and what the digit could look like. So let's start with the first bullet here. It says the value of the digit 7 is 7 times 10. Can somebody tell me what 7 times 10 is? Very good, it's 70, because I know that 7 times 10 is 70. It's the same thing as 7 times 1, which is 7, and we add that 0 down here at the end. Now let's move on to digit number 2, or value number 2. It says the value of the digit 3 is 3 times 1,000. Can someone tell me what 3 times 1,000 is? You guys are so smart. It's 3,000. Very good. And I know that 3 times 1,000 is 3,000 because it's the same thing as 3 times 1 with how many zeros at the end? 3 zeros. Very good. And the last bullet says the value of the digit 1 is 1 times 100. What's 1 times 100, 4th grade? This should be easy. Very good. It's 100. So we need to find a number that has a 70, a 3,000, and a 100. I'm going to give you guys 10 seconds to look for this number here. I bet a bunch of you see it. Alrighty. You see it? Okay, 4th graders, can you tell me what number you have decided? Which number did you come up with? Very, very, very good, guys. It is A. Awesome work. All right, so let's take it down. Does A have a 7 in the tens place? Yeah. Does it have a 3 in the thousands place? Of course it does. And does it have a 1 in the hundreds place? It meets all of what we needed to find, so it's A. Let's break down B and see why not. B has a 3 in the thousands. B does not have a hundreds place, so we know it's not B. C has a 3 in the thousands, but it doesn't have a 1 in the hundreds place, or even a 7 in the tens place. D doesn't even have a 3 in the thousands place, or even a 1 in the hundreds place, so we know it's not D, and our answer is A. Look at you guys rocking it out today. You guys are super smart. Let's solve one more problem together really fast, and then we'll get into our math challenge for the week. This problem says the number 47 and 6/100ths can be expressed as, Well, 4th graders, what we're going to do here is we're going to break this down piece by piece. And remember, this is expanded notation here. Notice the parentheses, notice the plus signs. Yeah, expanded notation, we just worked it out. We're pretty good at that. So let's go ahead and figure this out. 4 would be, what place does the 4 have? Yeah, it has a tens place. We know that it has a tens place and not a thousands place because this decimal here separates it. What value does the 7 have? Yep, the 7 has a ones place. Well, now that we know that the 4 has a tens place and the 7 has a ones place, we know that we're going to multiply the 4 by what? Yeah, by 10. And we know that we're going to multiply the 7 by which number? By 1. Very good. So just looking at that, guys, which one can we automatically eliminate and say, that's definitely not the answer? Yeah, C, we can definitely eliminate C. Look at this, 4 times 1? No, sir. It's 4 times 10. We know that's a tens place. All right, so let's keep moving. Now it says that we have 0.06. Do we have any tenths? Nope, we have 0 tenths. Do we have a hundredth? Yeah, how many hundredths do we have? We have 6 hundredths. Very good. And so I know that I have a hundredths place, and that's represented as times what? Remember the trick I just taught you? Think of it backwards. Yeah, 0.01. So with that said, guys, take a few moments to figure out and think about which one it could be. All right, do you think you have it? Okay, fourth graders, let's look. Is there any that we can automatically eliminate? Yeah, look at D. No, that's definitely not it, right? It doesn't even have a decimal there. It's not D. Now we're stuck between B and A. Which one is that? It's A. Very good. We notice here that it's 100th, and this is a tenth. Very good. Fourth graders, you guys are on fire. You rocked it out today. Get ready so that I can read you guys a math challenge for the week. Excellent work, guys. Okay, marvelous fourth graders. So our math challenge for the week is to write the following numbers in expanded notation. Remember, guys, expanded notation is when we just expand the number based on its value. So what we're going to do is we're going to write out all of these in expanded notation. As you notice, they get a little bigger as you go down the line, but that's because you guys are super smart and I know that you're up for a challenge. Remember to put in your parentheses and remember your addition symbols. You can also use the cool trick I taught you in this video to be sure and write these out in this form. Good luck, everyone!